Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to the class. My name is Tammy. Um, so the topic is Scrum versus Kanban, who wins? And just like Sam rightly said, before we start, let me just introduce myself a bit. So let me give you. So we say, what is Agile software development? Let's start from there. What is Agile software development? And I put it here that Agile is an umbrella term for a set of frameworks and practices that break down complex projects into smaller, manageable goals, right? That's Agile in a sort of definition, just to get the idea. Then I say here that, and also presents the following advantages. Number one, the ability to adapt and change. To adaptability and agility are synonyms, right? Very flexible, rapid adaptation, quicker product launch. That's what we discovered that was happening using Agile. Localized and faster decision making. Agile pulls the requirement to bring intelligence down to the people that do the work. So the way Agile works is no longer those at the top that have all the intelligence. We have what we call bottom-up intelligence meeting top-down intelligence. So Agile forces that to be. And when you don't have it, it shows, it cracks the system. And then greater focus on, and as a result, improved down, up, and top-down communication, like I said earlier. Then laser focus on getting better. In every Agile process framework, there's a part where you look at how you are doing to see how you can get better. It's embedded in the processes, right? Okay, then also improved and timely customer value delivery. Now, among the frameworks, we have Scrum and Kanban. Now, these are not the only two, but they're the most popular so far. There are others that you'll be surprised what they mean. There's Crystal. The guy that created Crystal is now starting to write about it after like 20 something years of having Crystal. Alistair Cockburn, he just started to write about it now. But Scrum and Kanban are the most popular. So let's look at what is Scrum. Now, Scrum was put together by these two people, right? By these two professors, Professor Tekuchi and Nonaka. So they wrote a particular paper in 1986, the Harvard Business Review, and they titled it The New Product Development Game. So the name Scrum was borrowed from the game of rugby. Then these two, Jeff and Ken, put together a paper at Uppsala conference, and they titled it the Scrum Development Process. So these are the two proponents, the co-authors of the Scrum Guide, right? Now, this is the Scrum process. Basically, I haven't added to this. I didn't have the time, to be fair. But this is the Scrum process. There's a product backlog that we put in the work. So Sam, your hand is up.
I'm sorry. Yeah, quick one. I was going to say, how do you want to handle questions? Do you want people to type in the chat box or at the end?
Please, I'm a trainer like Sam. We love being interrupted. So don't try to be overly polite. If you have a question, shoot it immediately. Just say, hey, hold on. Can you go back to that slide? Can you answer? Please interrupt. So I can see Edward is already ready. Yeah, Edward, go ahead.
No, we are not polite here, so that's what I'm saying. Yeah. We will ask questions, but carry on. I don't know.
No, that's what I'm saying. You can ask in the middle. I don't mind. I actually like people interrupting with questions. Okay. So for Scrum, where's Sam? You're on mute though.
I'm gonna say, Shegun, that you will get the slides, okay? That's okay to me, right?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So for Scrum is an empirical process, right? We look at what comes into a team, they break it down in a product backlog, they have a sprint planning. From sprint planning, it goes into the sprint backlog. Then from there, the team delivers value incrementally per sprint, right? That is Scrum basically. For Kanban, what have I done? For Kanban, at the time Kanban was created, there was a major problem in that industry, which was overburdening from the people that do the work at the end of the equation. So Kanban originally was designed to produce relief from overburdening. So you look at Toyota. So this is the guy that created Kanban, Taichi Ono, right? And he created a system that used paper cards or signal cards for signaling and tracking demand in Toyota factory where he worked. And he called it Kanban. And it was just a simple way to say, if instead of, so look at it this way. This is Toyota, they're building cars, right? So doors are coming in, boots are coming in, different things are coming in. At the assembly point, they now put everything together. Before they had Kanban, what they observed happened was they had too many of the doors, too many of this at the end. So the guys putting it were always struggling with too much coming down the line. They just could not make it. There was too much coming in. So what they said was, okay, fine. What we will then do is we create a system that reduces the burden on these guys by using a WIP limited system. So we create a system where we know the capacity for each workstation, bearing in mind the dependency on the capability of the last station. So from that, they worked it backwards to ensure that there was continuous flow of value of parts, but never overstocking in any one. And eventually, up until Tesla, Toyota has been the most efficient manufacturing plant in the world for many years based on this system. Now, David Anderson, this guy here, he then took this system and brought it into the idea of software development, creating what is now known as the Kanban method, right? Now, the Kanban method has 6 general practices. A lot of them you are aware of, maybe to certain various degrees. Number one Kanban general practice is visualize. Visualize the work, the process that it goes through, the business risks and the dependencies. Visualize as much as you can, because a picture is worth 10,000 words. If you want to optimize it, if we can see it, it's easier for us to optimize what we can see. Then limit work in progress. The team is a fixed capacity train. For those of us that have Nigerian history, the team is not a Molue. You can't push everything inside. So there has to be an optimal number that you work with that the team can keep replicating. So limit work in progress. Manage flow. What are we saying? Flow is the thing that you are after. So manage flow like a guy that plays chess. It's an active management of the properties and parameters that exist within your team to optimize the flow of value from ideation to the customer. So it might include things like limiting your WIP to this amount, the conversations at your daily scrum, the conversations at your planning. All you're looking for is how to optimize the flow of value. So look at it this way. I usually tell I work with some Nigerians and some, we gist. I say, look at in Kanban. Kanban looks at a ticket that walks into your system like hot dodo. He wants to maintain the heat when it gets to the customer. How many of you know cold dodo is not sexy? Do we agree? She is like, it depends. Yes. If you're really hungry, if you're really hungry for dodo, anyhow is good, Abby.
Yeah.
Shege, you agree? Like, cold dodo is not sexy.
It's not so.
So Kanban wants to ensure that your dodo remains hot from beginning to end. So people sometimes define Kanban as a collection of strategies for optimizing the flow of value through a system, right? So then among the principles, you also have make policies explicit. Make the reason why you do something and move something explicit to the whole team. Don't leave it to guesswork. Don't leave it to, I thought you know, I thought you should know. No. We say also implement feedback loops. Everything is experimental. And in every experiment, there's a point where you come together to see, did the experiment work? So in Kanban, we say implement that feedback loop. Then finally, we say improve collaboratively. Improvement should be done as a team-based activity, not individual. So now let's look at some of the differences. Yeah, Edward, go ahead.
One quick question. Yeah. Can we say implement feedback loops relates to the Scrum where we have sprint review?
Yep. In Scrum, you inspect and adapt product process. So Kanban is saying the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So like you rightly said, the sprint review, you inspect and adapt the process, the product. The sprint retrospective, you inspect and adapt your process. So Kanban is saying the same. That you have that as, because the way you look at it, it's an experimental process, right? In every experiment, there has to be, Sorry, apologies.
I have a question. I have another question, but I don't know if it's gonna if you're gonna go through that later. What
Ask a
management tool? We have Jira, we have the Azure DevOps. And I know I've used in the Scrum, I've used Jira quite a lot. What management tool? Gone are the days when I used to work in Kanban. We have a board where we just place paper on the wall and we just, something like that. And we just walk around it and say, oh, yes, I've done it. Have you used in your experience any tool to manage Kanban?
Oh, yes. I've used Jira extensively. I've used, I've used Jira. There's also Swift Kanban, there's Business Map, there's Kanban Zone. There are a lot, but I've used Jira. Jira is not the best to use Kanban.
Yeah, I've noticed as well. Yeah,
it's not. Jira is a master of all, not doing all well either. But I've used many. The most important thing really is your attempts to actually, if you want to use a system that is formatted for Kanban particularly, I would say Swift Kanban, Business Map, Kanban Zone. There are about 3 or 4 of them that they built that application with Kanban in mind.
Kanban in mind, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you have to remember that Jira didn't start with Scrum. Jira was like Remedy and ServiceNow. It just became popular, and then they expanded it to do all this. And that's why it does so many things good and so many things bad.
Agreed. Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions from anybody?
Not for now.
Okay, let's go on. Okay. Shegun is revving. Can feel that. Okay, so let's continue. Let's look at some of the differences between Scrum and Kanban in a nutshell. One of the major differences is sprint versus flow. What am I saying? Scrum is particular about the sprint. The secret of Scrum is a sprint. Everything you do in Scrum, you rinse and repeat per sprint. So your sprint becomes your measurement point for both the sprint goal, product goal, for both your processes via the sprint retrospective. So every time, and that's why it's called the sprint retrospective, because it's a retrospective of the sprint. So you can take learnings to improve the next sprint. Your sprint goal is a subset of your product goal. So Scrum is particular about the sprint. In Kanban, we loosen the boundaries and we are concerned about flow. We want consistent flow of value through the system. Now, does Scrum not want consistent flow? Scrum does, but Scrum allows you to stop, do the review and go, restart. Stop, restart, stop, restart. Kanban says flow continuously. That's number one difference. Number two, roles and responsibilities. In Scrum, you have the Scrum Master, you have the product owner, you have the developers, you have all that. Kanban says, whatever you call yourself, let's do the work. Now, further down Kanban implementation, there are 2 roles that Kanban talks about. But the question with the roles is, if you have capacity for roles, here are 2. So service request manager, service delivery manager. Right now, David Anderson is trialing something called the flow manager. If you look on LinkedIn, check the David J. Anderson website or check on David Anderson's LinkedIn posts. You see something about a flow manager. What he's trying to do this scrum.org thing, which is have a role-based training program. Like you have the Scrum Master and product owner. So that's a trial. But that's how it is with roles and responsibilities. So in Kanban, we say start with what you do now, respect existing roles, responsibilities, and job titles. Don't change anything. Just start from where you are and start incrementally improve. Right? That's another one. In terms of planning, that's one of their major differences. For Scrum, we plan on a cadence. Every 2 weeks for a 2-week sprint, every week for a 1-week sprint, every 4 weeks for a 4-week sprint, whichever duration, we plan based on that cadence. It's a regular planning cycle. In Kanban, we do what we call just-in-time planning. We focus on queue replenishment and we look for different triggers. We might trigger by a lower WIP limit. We may trigger by cadence. We may trigger by the availability of the person that we need for the planning. But we try to ensure as much as possible just-in-time planning, right? Then One other major difference is WIP limits. So in Scrum has WIP limits, but it's per sprint. You can take in 10 stories or 50 points. You are limited to that in a sprint. Kanban goes one step further, micro level limits not WIPs, to either limit work per column, per person, by swim lane, but it's active in the process. For Scrum, is more of as you enter, only this number of chickens are allowed in, and then we work that way. Kanban is like, yeah, every column has a limit, right? Then one interesting, let me ask you a question for Scrum Masters that are here. The idea of scope creep, how do you deal with scope creep as a Scrum Master? So you've started your sprint, then a senior manager comes and says, this other piece of work needs to be done. What's your response as a Scrum Master? Can anybody give me what they would say, what they've said, what they've read?
Okay. For me, I would want to share what I have read. Okay.
Yeah,
Also.
yeah.
So I think number one fact is that you shouldn't add anything to your sprint that will affect your sprint goal.
Yes.
So you might need to discuss with the product owner, developers, to see if they have the bandwidth or not. Maybe so. If they have the bandwidth and addition of that item to the sprint backlog wouldn't affect the initial sprint goal, then it should be a go or a yes. But if it's not, then hopefully we should be able to convince the management or whoever it is to, wait for the next sprint, hopefully. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have a different view around it. If there's an important item in the backlog that needs to be developed, and we're currently on the sprint, and it's very important for the development team to kind of implement. I think the first thing from my own point of view is to discuss with the team, the development team, and understand the impact to the sprint. If there are no impact and the team has the capacity to accommodate that one item in the sprint, I think it can be. I don't think it should be, oh yes, we're done with the. I think Agile is flexible, like we all know. There should be a flexibility, but I think we should understand the impact, how it affects the sprint, and if we have capacity within the team to be able to fulfill that item in the backlog.
That demand. Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody else want to add to that? Thank you, Edward. Thank you, Sheikh. I want to hear Sam's perspective. You knew I was going to call you now. Because I've discussed this thing extensively in different directions and dimensions.
So, scope creep. I don't believe in scope creep, by the way. Okay? There is work to be done. It's important. These things happen. And of course, I think we should pull that work in if it is really important. What must be very clear is that is it really important? Yeah. And as much as possible, we try to protect the sprint goal. Yeah. But sometimes there is work that you have to do that if you don't do, you might not have a product anymore. All right. So you've got to look into this kind of items that come up. However, I think as a Scrum Master, there is a job on you to coach the organization. That is a cost to every disruption. Regardless of the framework, it's not for free. There will always be something you've got to drop to work on it. And on the long term, you want to improve your process so you're more proactive on this kind of creeps, That's my take on it.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Actually, I mean, you said exactly what I expected, which is, you see now, what I'm hearing, is the use of your experience and knowledge to solve that particular problem. Now, what Kanban does to prevent you having to do the mental gymnastics is, so in Kanban, like Sam rightly said, the idea of scope creep for us in the Kanban community is more of updated requirements or a new hot button issue to be sorted out today. So what do we look at? We look at right next to start column, the very first column. Is there capacity in that? So if the WIP limit is 5, and we're currently at 4 tickets, and they come and say, we need you to do one more thing. There's capacity, pull it in. There's no need for a conversation. We just replenish and put that thing in. Boom, and we move on. Can you see? So in Kanban, there's a bit more flexibility around the realization of the fact that we would love to lock our sprints down and focus on it. But in real life, it's a bit more difficult to do than we think. A lot of times, things are coming in left, right, and center, and you have to be able to respond. Remember, agility is about adaptability. And Kanban, Scrum is very adaptable, but Kanban in some areas takes it one step further. So almost like macro Scrum, micro Kanban. So that is one, like I said, scope creep. Then performance indicators. Scrum doesn't have as many, or the ones that we talk about popularly for Scrum didn't come from Scrum. So we talk about velocity. It's not a Scrum thing, right? It's added, people have added it to Scrum and they think, oh yeah, velocity is Scrum. It isn't. But Kanban has cycle time, throughput, and work in progress limits. And those indicators are really powerful. We live on that hill. So that's one good thing about Kanban, or that's one major difference. Then in terms of the board, the visual board designs. For a Scrum team, at a certain level, to do in progress and all that is done is okay. Or to do development in progress, test in progress, done. But Kanban has a different idea. For a proper Kanban system, there are 3 things that must be there. Number 1, commitment points. Number 2, right, your work in progress limits displayed. And number 3, your policies must be explicitly displayed. Now, to aid that, in a Kanban board design, a proper Kanban board design, you have active and dwell columns. Development in progress, development done. Test in progress, test done. Or you can have it as development in progress, ready for testing. Test in progress, ready for deployment. But we have to see the 2 different. So we can know if that work is waiting in testing. Has testing been completed and we're looking for how to push it to deployment? Or is it currently actively being tested? Now, does it mean the Scrum team cannot do that? No. What we are saying is that for a Scrum team to do that, the Scrum Master must know it. But in Kanban, it's inherent in the training. Can you see? So differences. But now let's look at similarities. You'll be shocked. Right? They are both, to an extent, pull systems, like we said. In Scrum, you pull per sprint. In Kanban, you pull from column to column. But they're both pull systems. They both have work in progress limits at different levels. Both are iterative methods. Both place high premium on continuous improvement of the team. Retrospective, we all look at how to improve. And both focus on capacity as a determinant for onboarding work by addressing them from different angles. One looks at the whole team's capacity in terms of your past performance. What did you deliver last sprint? Let's look at the same for this sprint. The other looks at it per column. So now the operative question is, can they work together? Do they work together? With these differences, these frameworks, can they actually work together? And the simple answer is yes. Now you'll be wondering how. They're so different. How can they work together? Very simply. First of all, Scrum is a framework that is a container framework. Sam may agree or disagree with this. Let me look at his face very well. He's giving his poker face. But Scrum is a very good framework that contains and has space. The Scrum guide says Scrum is purposely incomplete. Sometimes it gives space for it, not necessarily to add to it, but to apply contextually the framework. Sam always says something, I'll quote him now. He says the Scrum is both a map and a destination. So it's a map for the right practices to adopt to actually give you success. But it doesn't mean that you can't add things to it. One. And then this is the important thing. Kanban is an improvement method. It will improve whatever you do. It can, there's personal Kanban. It can improve how you go to the gym, what you do in the office. It can improve anything. Kanban is a process improvement method. Right? Now, look at ways that Kanban can help your Scrum. Right? There's something I call does anybody know the term yo-yo sprints? I was one that coined it, I think. But I'm sure Sam gets the idea because Sam was already nodding. So yo-yo. So what's a yo-yo sprint? How many of you have experienced this? A sprint starts dev heavy, ends test heavy. Have you experienced it before? Where at the beginning of the sprint, the testers are like, hey, Kilama, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Now, at the end of the sprint, testers are saying, help, help, help.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You experience it, right? Now, when you use Kanban whip limits, it limits the variability in the demand. It brings a balance to it because your whip limits focus on your bottleneck area. And then you build the whip limit back from it to ensure that there's a constant flow. Then, because you have whip limits, it drives the conversation of collaboration. So you see that tester that starts early that has nothing to do, he will be collaborating with somebody. So that then reduces the yo-yo, because the yo-yo is serious. Because when you think of it, there's no how you won't have yo-yo. Your normal average developer to tester ratio is like 4 or 5 to 1. So it's by design yo-yo equation, right? Number 2, Kanban talks about stop starting and start finishing. So it brings a delivery mindset to the team. I'll give you a simple example. Okay, no. I'll give you an example in this next point. I said breathing life into your daily Scrum. What am I saying? How many of us do daily Scrum and how many of us still ask the 3 questions? I'm sure do we still ask the 3 questions? Or the Scrum guy says, whatever you ask that is in line with inspecting and adapting your progress towards a sprint goal, right? So any conversation set that matches that requirement. But look at how Kanban brings life into the daily Scrum. Imagine you're working with the team and you have a set of questions that anybody asks. After a while, the team gets used to you. They know what to answer. Kanban turns it around its head. Kanban says, look at the board from right to left, right? Now, instead of asking the people, ask the board the question. Look at ticket 151 and ask one question. What do we need to complete this ticket today? That's all you want to find out. So the ticket closest to done, you want to find out, what do we need today to move it? The Kanban idea, now this might be controversial. I'm sure Sam might twitch a bit. The Kanban idea for a daily stand-up or daily Scrum is this. When you leave work today, as you go home, when you come back tomorrow, do not assume in any way or fashion that you will continue the work that you did yesterday. No, you are divorced from it. Every day at our daily Scrum, we will decide what everybody does that moves us closer to done or into done. It may involve you continuing what you're doing yesterday. It may involve you doing something completely different. It is the team's objective that matters above your own. So that means if you look at ticket 151 in testing, and we say, okay, Tammy, go and help. It might mean Tammy drops what she was doing yesterday to spend the whole day helping to build that ticket into that ticket into done. In Kanban, done is exalted above doing. Now, in Scrum, it's the same thing, but because think of it this way. If I was going to continue working on what I was doing yesterday, and it is inherent and expected, what's the point of us Sorry, excuse me. Who is calling me? Oh, this guy's Limena. Sorry. Can you hear the phone ringing?
No, we can't hear your phone ringing. No.
Oh, okay. It was ringing on my laptop as well. So I thought it was interrupting. Sorry, I just continue typing.
No.
Okay. So that's one major thing about Kanban. You are divorced from your work every day. As a team, we will decide what everybody's working on because we must finish something today. That's the Kanban idea. We must finish something every single day. Right? That thing must stay fresh. It must be finished today. Then one major way that Kanban also helps is there's focus on process optimization, right? The Kanban metrics drive the Kanban person to look at the team and go, look at our cycle time distribution. It is extending beyond what I'm comfortable with. How can we bring it down? How can we left shift it? We're looking at reducing our variability and our risk. So it's a constant, it runs in the system of a Kanban person. You're always looking for what to improve. Now it runs in a Scrum person as well, but the way Scrum does it, unless you are as experienced as, like Sam and co, you are looking at the retrospective. But Kanban is your daily breathing mentality. That's one. Then Kanban gives a lot of actionable metrics. That I love so much. I love metrics. Okay, that's one. Then Kanban brings improvements in efficiency, effectiveness, and reliability. And one very powerful thing that Kanban brings, team-generated goal setting. How many of us know the term SLA? That service level agreement. Yeah. So that's usually an interdepartmental contract of how we're going to work, right? But Kanban has what we call SLE, service level expectation, which is the team decides, looking at their data, this is what they want to target and meet. So can you see? The team says we want to finish our work every 5 to 7 days, and they work towards it. Kanban brings that mentality to the team. Now, am I saying Scrum can't do it? It can, but it requires an experienced Scrum Master that knows what he's doing to bring it in. In Kanban is inherent in the program. Right? That's one. And then also I said, providing the team with the right language to frame their challenges. A lot of times when as Scrum Masters, we push back on some things, what the organization hears is, I don't want to do what you are saying. Without the right framing, they won't hear what you are saying is costing us money. That's why I don't want to do it. What they will hear is, you're not listening to my instruction. So they then do, have you heard of the term JFDI? Okay, I don't swear, but JFDI means just effing do it. So after you've said all you want to say, just go get it done. Right? So now my question is, sorry, Sam,
I think Shegun had his hand up or something.
Oh, Shegun, sorry about that. I didn't see that.
No, I think it was when you were asking of SLE that I raised my hand. That's okay. I know that.
Okay. Sorry. And I'm a trainer now. We're always talking.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay. So now the question is, who wins, right? Who wins between Scrum and Kanban? And like I said here, the winner is the smart Scrum Master. That is the winner. The Scrum Master, the modern day Scrum Master can't go around carrying just one flag. You can't say, all I know is Scrum. It's not enough. The problems that we face in the workplace are so dynamic, so varied. You have to be a master of many flags. He or she must be a master of techniques. Remember this fella? There were many masters in his time. Why was he phenomenal? He mastered many techniques. Eventually, he formed his own technique called Jeet Kune Do. He combined the best of all the other techniques together to form his own technique. Okay? Any questions?
Can you go back one slide, please? Great, thank you very much. Thank you.
Sam is about to contend with something. I can feel it.
Any questions from anybody? Any questions? Or were you guys just muted? Any questions?
I
have one question, but after the end. I think Shegun came up unmuted first.
Yes, I think question, I think I posted it on the charts.
So yeah, how will the smart Scrum Master avoid Scrum bots?
Yeah.
When you mean Scrum bots, what do you mean?
Okay. I think Mr. Samuel will help us with Scrum bots.
No, I don't know what Scrum bots is. I don't know what Scrum bots is. What is Scrum bots?
Okay. Well, from what we've heard, Scrum bot is, doing Scrum, but maybe not doing it completely, maybe not effectively that Scrum bot. So
yeah, okay. I'll take that's a very nice question. So I always say something as a Scrum Master, you have to understand something. There is what you meet, there's what you expect to eventually happen, and you are a master of the transitory states between the two. So you have to be focused on moving the team closer and closer daily to that quote unquote ideal. It might involve you rolling back some things, rolling forward some things. The Scrum bot, what you can do is once it doesn't burn the building down, you can accept some of it with the plan to prove to the team why you need that practice. So I'll give an example. I was training someone today, and his organization, the teams do monthly retrospectives. As he said it to me, if I could say, he burst into laughter. And he said, Tammy, I've made massive progress. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, when I got there, it was retrospective every 3 months. So can you see? He's moving them closer and closer. Can you see? It would be immature for him to have lied and said, what do you mean? It must every 2 weeks. No. Nah, it won't work. So he has to prove to them the value of the retrospective. And he has done that. And he has pulled it from once every 3 months. That means only 4 times a year to now 12 times a year. And he told me now he's trying to see how he can get them to move it to be every 2 weeks to align with the sprint. Can you see? So you are a master of the transitory state. It's something you must consciously be aware of. You're going to be yo-yoing between where the team is and where they should be, but you have to consciously be moving forward.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. The next question is, aside from burn down and velocity, what other metrics would you encourage Scrum Masters to measure? So we actually have a video on YouTube. The last 3 months ago, October, we had someone talk about some of the flow metrics. But let's answer that question. Yes. Okay. What other metrics, Timmy?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That question excites me. There are things you look at like cycle time, your throughput, your work in progress. Now, the good, and then most importantly, the hidden gem of it all, work item age. Right? Now, the cycle time is a result of something. It's at the end. You've done it. That's when you say the cycle time. But work item age is the age, how long a ticket has spent in the process on the board compared to your goals. So I'll give an example. In Jira, you can even mimic this in Jira. When you go to your settings for your board, you can enable days in the column. I did that for someone once and he saw 80 days. A ticket had been in one column for 80 days. So what am I saying? If you monitor your work item age, you'll get a good grip on your cycle time. Because your cycle time is an accumulation of work item age up until done. So those two, if there's anyone I'll say you focus on, we'll focus on your work item age. That will then give you a good cycle time. Those two will be game changers. What do I mean? At your daily scrum, you can ask the question, look at the board and say, this ticket has been here for 9 days. Why? What can we do to move it forward? Can you see? Because what happens to a lot of Scrum Masters is without understanding work item age, you talk about every ticket with the same level of importance. They're not all the same. A 10-day-old ticket is more valuable than a 1-day-old ticket. So thank you for that.
All right, great. What other techniques and frameworks could we add to our arsenal?
Oh yes, Kanban. One, I would say know Kanban and know it well along with your Scrum. Have the two as twins. Then in terms of scaling, I favor greatly Kanban and the Nexus. Those two. I would say if you want to spend money on learning if you want to spend money learning anything, spend money learning Kanban, spend money learning the Nexus, spend money learning Kanban and its framing and its scaling. Then I would say you can watch videos or read about SAFe. Right? You can watch enough videos on YouTube, read, maybe even spend maybe a little money, do the SAFe Advanced Scrum Master course. But I would say learn Kanban, learn the Nexus framework.
Okay, can I add to that a little bit? I think,
yeah, sure.
I think Timmy has talked about frameworks. As a Scrum Master, I think understanding dev practices. How do you break down work? How do you estimate? Understanding how to use flow metrics, how to use planning poker. We talked about yo-yo sprints, whereby you have testers not doing anything at the beginning, and then towards the end, they're very busy. My opinion, those are inexperienced testers. All right? Spend time to learn about shift left testing. When I used to be a tester, we wrote tests whilst dev were writing code.
Yeah.
And because the thing was not built yet, all right, it was easier for us to think out of the box. And before the thing was built or finished building it, we then hand over the test to developers, which means we had less defects at the end. So there are a lot of things you can do. Go read about T-shaped teams, pie-shaped teams. How do you help your teams to pick up more skills and be cross-functional? And then for Scrum Masters, just think about this now. We talk about T-shaped teams, pie-shaped teams. Are you a pie-shaped or T-shaped Scrum Master? Or are you a one-trick pony? Think about that. The issue we've had with people being laid off work was because there are Scrum Masters that do not understand the work they're meant to be helping their teams to do. Yeah. So there are a lot of techniques out there. And I think these sessions, we run it every quarter. Keep joining and we'll talk about these things. Bring your questions, bring things that you're struggling at work with, and hopefully we can give some advice.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Just one quick one. I think, Sam, we discussed this before. I think you said, we're not running Agile in my organization, where we call it a staggered approach, where the test team would use the whole sprint to just write all their test code and wait for the development team to finish. So it's just like they are running behind the development team, and it's not helpful. But I think from what I can get so far is, as long as we're getting improved in that Agile methodology and keep improving from the explanation you gave about the retrospective topic, where we had one quarterly and now one monthly. I think it's good. I think when we improve more better every time, it's good. But I kind of wonder where I join as a Scrum Master and I say, okay, I want to change the whole world. I think it's not going to happen, right? We have to do it, you know,
incrementally, yeah. But here's the risk of what you are saying. What is different between that and waterfall? That is just simply a waterfall process. Yeah. So what if I was going to change anything, what you now try to highlight is there's a risk. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
I know the funny thing, like in Scrum, I'm sure some will agree with this, that they say, do not agree for any adjective sprints. Where you have hardening sprint, testing sprint, design sprint, they're all anti-patterns. Let me tell you what happens when you do test sprints. Everybody builds crap to be fixed in the test sprints. And I told somebody what happens is the test sprint starts to expand. From one, it becomes 2 sprints, it becomes 3 sprints. Because you're incentivizing crappy engineering practices. That we'll fix it later. All of us that are here that live in houses, there are many stores that we said we will arrange later. They are still the same way they were 3 years ago. Can you see? So what you want is to do every activity in sprint, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, but the problem now is when you advise, I don't know if it happens for anybody on the call, when you advise, oh, sorry, you guys are not running, we need to do it this way, and they're not doing it, and the team is achieving, we're delivering, and nobody cares. Even my Scrum Master is just crap, right? So he does not.
So I think, I get it, right? What it means, what it means. It means that if your development is 2 sprints and your testing is 2 sprints, you're running 4-week sprints. Because the whole idea of Scrum is getting things done. Yeah. The fact that people do not listen or you're telling them it's not good enough, because really, if you're not empowered to make such changes, you will not have a lot of success.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just tell them. It's about, this is how we're going to improve. Sometimes they want you as a Scrum Master to really show them and say, you're going to stop doing that. Yeah. In a bank I worked many years ago, it was every 6 months, something similar. 3 months of dev, 3 months of testing, and 18 months of hard work. We got to where we're deploying testing every single month. It wasn't easy. But I had to roll my sleeves and do it for them. Most people stop at telling them, I'm saying you're not listening to me. That is not good enough. All right? It's about really...
Well, I think you mentioned it about empowerment, yeah?
Sorry?
It's about empowerment. But I think what Sam is trying to prove to you that there's empowerment. So I look at empowerment in two different ways. There's empowerment where you're given a platform. And there's empowerment where you create your own platform. What do I mean? I call it buying political will. You come to an organization, you see the anti-patterns, you are talking, they're not listening. You're talking, they're not listening, not because they don't want to listen, but you're talking to the wrong level. The people you're talking to, most likely don't have the power to change what exists. They're enforcers. Their job is to go enforce what it is. So now what I always tell people is, as a Scrum Master, find something to deliver at, where they can say, wow, thank God we have Edward here. And then on that platform, you then start to say, we can do so much more if we could change A, B, C. Absolutely. So now they see you as someone that is reputable. You know what you're doing. So we can now listen and take what you're taking, what you're saying as enforcers, to the person above and saying, for us to enforce greater productivity, Edward is saying we need to do A, B, C. Can you see?
Yeah.
Timmy, we have about 4 minutes to go, and I don't like to overrun. But I have one question for you, which is something I've been thinking about.
For me?
Yes, for you, yes, of course, yes, for you.
Okay. No pressure.
One thing I've seen a lot with Kanban is slack time. Yeah, developers need time, slack time. And in Scrum, we build slack time in. Something is a 3 point, something is 4, just make it 4 points. Because we want time to... The challenge is, how do you avoid burnout in a Kanban team when it's always like in that flow state?
Yeah.
Never a time to catch your breath. Never a time like, let's just go write some tests, or I want to go study. I want to go do some investigations. 1 minute. How do you enforce slack time in a Kanban system?
That's a very good question. Woo-wee. 1 minute, no pressure. Okay, so it really is dependent on the experience of the Scrum Master or like I was once Kanban Master. So Kanban is about process improvement, but inherent in that conversation is the fact that process improvement also involves people improvement, right? So what we do in Kanban is simply this. As you are looking at the WIP limits, what you are saying is, what is the mentality you're having WIP limits is, can we continue working on this indefinitely? If not, then there's too much in the system. So by including that conversation, you're also inherently putting in some slack time. The only difference where Kanban doesn't clearly state it is, it's not explicit to say, look at slack time. It's just, is you, the professional, go, okay, we cannot be working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday for 24 months. There has to be some time where you say, learn. I mean, like I used to do on one of my teams, you have knowledge sharing sessions. If I one of my teams, we also had knowledge share sessions and half day Friday. It was how it worked. So yeah, so that's a simple answer. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. It's 2 minutes to 5. And what I'm going to say is, this is our Value Hut Consulting quarterly. We call it Scrum Master Clinic or Scrum Mastery Clinic. So the fact that you are here means that you will get the invite for the next one. Watch out for it. We will send you the recording. We will send you the recording from this call. Thank you very much, Temi. Fantastic presentation. I was really looking forward
Thank
to
you.
what you're going to say and say Kanban was over, Scrum, whatever you said. Oh yeah, but I'm glad you put in that last slide to save yourself, you know. But thank you very much, Temi. It's not easy
Thank
to
you.
press slides. I've been there before, and sometimes like, is that enough? Will I, you know? But thank you. That was very, very engaging. And
You're
to
welcome.
everybody
Thank
else,
you.
thank you for spending 1 hour with us, and we will share the link of the video with you all. Have
And the
a
slides as well.
good Christmas. If you do Christmas, enjoy the holiday period with family, friends, and we will see you in the new year. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone. Nice
Bye.
meeting you all. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Sam, for having me.
Thank you, Temi. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop the recording.